I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
How's it going, Jeffrey?
Oh, good. How are you?
Man, it's going really good. How's grandparenting going?
Man, as of last night, I have number two.
Number two.
Yeah, we had Logan Breeley had another little girl last night about 7 o'clock, Carson Joy, and I'm smitten.
I bet old Cameron Lee's pretty excited to have her little sister.
She is. There's going to be a break-in period, I think, but yeah, she's excited last night. We've been keeping her, and she had Cameron Day the other day, so Breeley, she's just the greatest mother ever, and so she planned a Cameron Day. She said, "Now, this is going to be your day," and she drew cards, and they just did everything that Cameron liked to do, and it's the best day ever and whatnot. And so,
that's really good.
It was Cameron Day, but she told me, she said, "Yeah, we had Cameron Day today, Pop, because when Carson's born, I'm not going to get much attention." Yeah, you will. No,
it'll be a different kind.
Yeah, it'll be different, but
yeah,
it'll be a break-in period, but it's going to be good.
I talked to Logan a couple days ago, and they were headed in there, and he said I was asking what her name was going to be, and he was telling me, he said both of them start with K.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that'll be fun when they're teenagers fighting over the same bit.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, this is for when you don't make the NFR and you're thinking about when Cameron outgrows her belt and they have the same initials, you can just reuse it.
Yeah. I like it.
That's saving money.
Yeah, this year he's
efficient.
He's starting to think about that a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is fascinating how team roping can rotate with momentum.
Yes, it is. It's just, I don't know. You talk about it a lot, and, since the first time, since you and him, Logan made it, in 20. Well, he made it 5 years in a row. And you want to guard against the fact, and I know he doesn't think that, but if you make it 5 years in a row, you think you should make it 6, and then you should make it 7, but my gosh, it's brutal out there, Chuck. As good as I do. It's partly your fault because you're teaching everybody, but wow, it's tough. Yeah.
Well, I think that it's so interesting when you look at the vulnerability of two ropers that are as bad as anybody. They're the top. They are the cream.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of Coleman and Logan, this 10th round last year at the NFR. Those guys were in contention. They're the best team ropers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then the vulnerability of when horses either quit working or get sore or get crippled, or you can name the amount of things that horses can do. And a lot of times at that level between Logan and Coleman, it's not like they don't know horses.
Right.
So these are things mostly probably out of their control.
Yeah.
And that's what I think so many people just understand is when you're thinking, what happened to Coleman? What happened to Logan?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not mounted, it doesn't make a crap how good you rope because, man, those are a huge part of winning.
Yeah. Well, like you said, they went into the 10th round last year with a chance to win a gold buckle, and then they're still out there rodeoing this year, a year later, trying to make sure they get in the buildings next year. And you think you know how tough it is out there, but you don't figure that scenario is probably going to pop up. But it has, and they're out there still battling, and I got a lot of confidence in them. We just kept thinking, Well, I mean, the horse deal is a big part of it, you know, and Logan's always had good horses. Fortunately, he's had a couple of good ones, and we've kind of made them, and so I think we kind of have a pretty good idea of what works for him. But when they start going down, you know, he's finishing the year right now on his number 4. He thought. Now that number 4 has stepped up in more ways than we thought he was going to, and so he's learned a lot about his number 4 horse that's probably moved him up. But when he gets back home, he's, you know, we're gonna go back at it, and he's got a horse or two to try, and you know, you keep working at it. It's just it's an eye opener. But gosh, you look down there at the top 50. And the guy that's in 50th place down there can beat your butt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
100%.
There's just a lot of talent out there.
Many of them.
Yeah.
So many of them.
Yeah.
And it seems like, unfortunately, you learn a lot about your roping and your horses in those dips.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at the top, sometimes you don't, especially when your horses are always working.
Mm-hmm.
So those other ones don't get exposed to as much stuff. And then when you have to, you're just always hoping that you can pull it off on that 4th string or the 3rd stringer.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's his good horse's name? I forgot.
Cantina.
That one just reminds me so much of Drago.
They have a lot of similar. They
even look.
They look alike. A lot of people.
Because on the Cowboy channel, I've almost got to text Logan, which one is that?
Yeah, they look a lot alike, and people make that mistake a lot. But he doesn't ride Drago very much anymore.
I seen he cracked him out at Lovington.
Cracked him.
Cool.
That was his first rodeo. I think he rode him at San Angelo, and he's got a big knee now, but he's tough, and I've got him at the ranch right there, and I kind of take care of him and stuff all summer. But yeah, he cracked him. He'd went through his other ones, and his little gray that he's riding, Showtime, is he was up in the Northwest, and so he had to have something to ride down south, and so I brought him to Lovington, and that was kind of a bucket list rodeo for him.
Yeah, because that's pretty dang near a hometowner.
It is. It really is. I mean, 20 miles from us is Tatum's 20 miles from Lovington. And
a special win due to the fact that they lived that close. Drago, he cracked him back out, and then hoping that was the run that would create momentum.
Yeah. And we kind of thought it was, and it just didn't really happen that way. But that's a bucket list rodeo for him. Lovington's a big, you know, it's a big rodeo, big fair, big county fair and stuff. And so, yeah, it was pretty special for him, you know, kind of emotional.
Yeah.
But
what about his 3rd string? What does he have for 3rd string that's in front of Showtime? Because he's got Drago, Cantina. What else does he have?
He bought a horse. He bought a really talented horse from Sloan Henley. The horse is like 8 years old. Sloan had been jackpotting on him. Horses can really run. He can do all the things. He just doesn't help you out like Drago and even Cantina's got his special points and stuff. But I've got a theory on that, and it's not to disregard somebody else's theories and horse trainers that do it. But we've ranched on our horses. I mean, ever since. I mean, that's what we do. But to get back to your question before I get off in that rabbit hole, but his 3rd horse is probably Drago is probably still his number 1 but he doesn't ride him. But he calls Cantina his number 1, and then so probably his number 2 was going to be that horse earlier on in the year from Sloan Henley. He thought he's green, but he can do all the things. But you know, his rib cage is a little stiff. He doesn't clear out very good. So you take more blind shots on him and stuff. And so, you know how it is. Drago created Logan's style of heeling by just never taking a throw away from him. Even if he wasn't in the perfect spot, I mean, you know, he just cleared out, and you could see what you always had a throw on him in every situation. And he read the play, and he locked on, and if what steer went left, he went left before you could tell him to go left, you know, and he was just great.
Well, and I think too, Drago was in kind of his younger stage when he was starting to learn how to win.
Yeah.
And so he was able to mold that horse, and they were molding together.
Yeah.
So then when the chance came, everything was there. So then once that horse knew his job, then you started seeing Logan's roping just blow up.
Yeah.
So that's where I see is when that horse has got that feel, when they know their job, when their run is set up to where now they can quit focusing on training and focusing on pulling off shots. Where when you get a newer horse, it seems like there's that molding phase for a little while. Well, then if you get thrown in the mixed and that timing's not there, or that feel's not quite established to where you're meshing together.
Yeah,
that's when it feels like that's when things can hit a hiccup.
Well, yeah, and it's nearly in the span of a year. You can't have certain situations, big situations, taken from you. By your horse. You just can't have them in those situations right there, and that's ends up what happens when you're riding a green one.
It seems like fall is when guys will get their green ones. They'll hit the jackpots when they get back home. They'll hit a few circuit rodeos where they kind of get a chance to get that mold down. So then that way, come wintertime, it gives a break for the good horses to get them ready for the NFR. They're still kind of taking to some of the jackpots around, but then if they need them, by then, come spring, when they're flying all around, those horses kind of have it. But man, it takes a special kind of horse. It takes a special kind of guy riding that can ride those green ones in this day and age and pull off that first hop.
And you have to have a certain level of confidence in them. You can't just get on a green one and be thinking, okay, because when I used to rodeo, I told Logan back in the, I said, man, you could kind of get by with the green one back in the day because you could kind of mold one. And I mean, there's, back in the day, if you rodeoed all year long, there was you were one of about 25 teams that was trying to make the NFR. Golly, there's 75 now, and so you got to be on something that you've got confidence in when because you can't get out there and train one in the span of 10 rodeos when you can't.
Yeah.
It's not that way anymore.
Not the same. Not the same. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I'm glad to hear everyone's healthy.
Yeah.
Everything looked good today.
Yeah.
Baby's healthy.
Yeah, baby's good. She's pretty as a picture. She's perfect. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. He's officially a girl dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
he'll be a good one.
Yeah, he will. So
what everything I heard is pretty green there in Tatum out there on the ranch. How cool is that? We've talked about it a lot here on the podcast, just the excitement I get for ranchers and the fact that the grass is green and the cattle market's high.
Yeah, it's kind of an unusual situation, and possibly maybe we're going to be here for a while, and hopefully so. It's been tough in New Mexico, I mean, I can remember my granddad talking about a 10-year drought, and I thought, God, that's got to be just some kind of saying. I mean, you never heard it won't go on, but we experienced, and hopefully this is coming out of it. We're not completely healed up because we've had about 5 or 6 years that sporadically rained, but our turf, has kind of been damaged and whatnot. And so we got so much rain this year, we got plenty of feed, but like there at the ranch, I was down to probably 25% stocked, 20 to 25% stocked before this year. So thankfully, the cattle are worth enough that I can get through a year being stocked like that and then maybe start my rebuild. But normally, and on one hand, it's unfortunate that I can't take advantage of it by being fully stocked in a year like this, but we'll build back to it. And that's the life of a rancher, I mean, you kind of know those are coming when you sign on. And so you just make the best of it, and you don't let it eat on you. You just kind of know it is what it is, and you just put your head down and
do you feel through. Like that's what created the market skyrocketing so much, is just the drought of everyone having to sell because of lack of feed?
It's partly that.
Now we're short.
Yeah, and I tell you what, there's a corporate factor also that back in our neck of the woods, young people are not wanting to stick around, and you can't blame them. Our ranch has been in our family. Well, the Medlins, we moved there and started ranching before New Mexico was a state.
What year was that?
1886 was when. Now I'm going to go way back, but
about the end of the Indian Wars. Then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what they say around our area. They said when people came to when people started coming to southeastern New Mexico, there was nothing but buffalo and Medlins, and and my great granddad came there to hunt buffalo, and he fought the Indians there, and so he hunted buffalo for the government, and he moved to Lovington, actually homesteaded in a place west of Lovington, and then eventually moved to where I live right now, and that was in the 30s.
What was the metropolis then for Tatum?
Oh, it was non-existent. There was no town.
What was the appeal for settling there, you feel like?
Shallow water. The water was plentiful. Basically my our family came to ranch there, but his name was Christopher Columbus Medlin, and he was known by Lum Medlin was his name that he went by. And Lum Medlin came there he was kind of a jack of all trades. I mean, he came there to settle, rid the place of Indian population, and hunt buffalo. And he ended up doing some carpentry work and settled into ranching. And his son, which would have been my great granddad, was the one that actually moved in and started the ranching business there. And I live on the place where my dad grew up as a child, and we've bought some other properties, some other ranches since then. My dad's ranch is about the same size that I live on, the ranch I live on, and it's about 30 miles straight north of me. And so I look after both of those now. And then I've bought a couple of neighbors' ranches as they aged out and their families they came up for sale. So I purchased some properties, and so we've got a pretty good little bit of country tied up there. So
your family was around during the whole Billy the Kid era.
Oh yeah, they've seen the tough times. That were right there where I live. My granddad went in the 30s in the Depression. They had there's a lot of stories. Him and my grandmother moved there and bought built a little house and started. And they had during the Depression, he had two sets of clothes. I mean, he wore one day and worked, and my grandmother washed them on a scrub board the other set, and he wore those, and they just swapped out. And it was tough times. I mean, we fought our way through. We never had oil money and they came in there in the 50s, and Tatum kind of boomed and started their town. And there used to be, they used to say there was 4 bars in Tatum. There was 3 or 4 motels and eating establishments and stuff. The 50s is when it really boomed, and then it's kind of went by the wayside. I think the population of Tatum is now about 600.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember it being pretty small.
Yeah, it's got 2 claims to fame. Rube Woolsey, when I was roping with him, he used to tell me, he said, there's 2 good things about Tatum, New Mexico: the steak fingers and leaving. So, and he's not wrong. I mean, you definitely have to establish a love for it. But
what was ranching growing up like as a kid?
Well, I grew up in on that northern ranch where my dad lives. My dad, they bought, when he graduated from college, my granddad sold a little piece of land and got enough for a down payment and bought that ranch up there. And that was in the late 50s. And I was born in 64. So I grew up on that ranch, and it was a long ways from anywhere. It's out in the middle of nowhere. No cell service, nothing. That's where I grew up. In the wintertime, the bus route came all the way, because my dad was on the school board. He saw it to it that the bus route came all the way to our door. And so in the wintertime, I got on the bus 6 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark, and got off that evening at the end of the route, pitch dark, and that's what it consisted of. And we were 35 miles from Tatum, which at the time had a very small grocery store, but not anymore. It burned down. And so we we were just like any other ranching family. We went to town seldom, and
then when you did, you stocked up.
You bet. Well, we got all the supplies, and we got.
Where did you guys have to go to get supplies?
Roswell.
Going to say if Tatum didn't have but one store and it burnt down, then you had to travel a little further to get all your supplies.
Yeah, Roswell was about a little over an hour away, and sometimes we'd go to Portales. We bought all of our feed and stuff came out of up north, Portales, Clovis, and over across the state line into Texas, and so it was quite a ways away. But I don't remember when I was little. I don't remember going to the big towns very much. I remember we would go to Portales maybe to buy feed or something, and I might get a pair of boots. I got a pair of boots, one pair of boots a year, or maybe 2 years if they lasted that long.
Yeah, and probably growth spurts as well.
Yeah, and tennis shoes. I was always an avid sports fan. I don't know how. I grew up making our own entertainment, out there. And we watched the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday, but I was an avid sports fan, loved sports all through high school, but I had a passion to rope and rodeo.
Where did that come from, and when did that start?
Well, my dad was a great cowman, maybe not a great horseman. My love was always for horses, but he was a great cowman. But a horse to him was a tool, and
that's what gathered the cattle. That's what you branded on.
You bet. I mean,
that's kind of like a 4-wheeler nowadays.
Yeah, we used them for what they were, but I always came from a different angle and whatever. So we always had a few calves in the pen, milk pen calves, dogie calves, or something like that. And when I was a kid, man, we would get very few magazines or something that might have a picture of Larry Mahan in it or something like that. And I'd just scour those articles, and read them. And then Roy Cooper was always a hero of mine. He was a little older, but he was making publications at a young age, and I'd see his name in the paper and stuff. And I remember when I was in 6th grade and we rolled down our goals for what we wanted to do in life is I wanted to go beat Larry Mahan in the bull riding at Madison Square Garden. And I wanted to show Roy Cooper a thing or two. And I wrote that down in 6th grade, and whatever. And so at the ranch, we would have those calves. And if we had a cow, that we were having, or a milk cow or something, I'd figure out a way to hem her up in the milking stall, put a rope around her and ride her out, and ride the milk cow. Or we had show steers and stuff and I would get in trouble for flanking the show steers and riding them. Or we had the milk pen calves and I just drug around a rope all the time, and
there was no social media. There was no iPhones, iPads. It was movement. It was outside and go entertain yourself.
Yeah. It was from going and heeling those roping calves, they were so wild you couldn't hardly get a throw. But if I pinched them off right here and run them around the chicken house, I could get a throw right there at the corner of the chicken house.
Started finding angles.
Yeah. So we made our own fun, and I even, took old windmill rods and built some standards that I could put a bar across and use the old part of the old TV antenna that we had going up by the side of our house that had all the fins on it. You spin around and try to pick up a TV station. Well, that'd blow down in the wind. So I kind of cut it off and made a pole and was pole vaulting. Made me, all our feed sacks.
Yeah. Nice.
Made my standards with a bar across it and had the TV antenna that I used for a pole, and I'd pole, I was pole vaulting
Creativity.
into the feed sacks.
Yeah.
That was kind of, we had a lot of time on our hands,
Was you starting to see some team rope and jackpots around? Was that something that you'd started seeing a little bit as well as you're growing up?
So I never really had that opportunity to team rope or whatever until basically I went to college. I never went to high school rodeo, but I played high school sports, but I was really what I wanted to do I wanted to rope. I wanted to compete. That was instilled in me. My dad's that way. He's you can't hardly stand to play a board game against him, because he just wants to compete. He's not a mean competitor. He'll laugh and whatever the whole thing, but he's a competitor.
And try to win.
And I had that. Always wanted to do that. So I was bound and determined I was going to rope somehow. I didn't know if I was going to calf rope. I didn't know if I was going to. I really wanted to team rope. That was kind of my passion. And I thought I was going to ride bulls. I really kind of wanted thinking out, but what busted my egg in the bull riding was we had a little local rodeo, Tatum Rodeo Club, and they'd have a little amateur rodeo about once a month or something like that, and the ranchers would throw in a couple of ranch bulls, 6-8 ranchers, and they'd have bull riding or whatever. So in high school, we had about 4 or 5 black bulls that we sent to let them buck them out or whatever. And then and then I would go get them and take them back to the ranch the next day. I never entered because, I wasn't good enough or whatever. But one day, me and my sister's boyfriend, Dad said, go get those bulls, take them back to the ranch, get them turned out. So we did. And we went over there and gathered them at the rodeo arena. And we said, and he was a legit bull rider. He'd enter the rodeos. I told him, I said, hey, we got bucking chutes right here. We got bulls.
Got everything we need.
Let's ride a couple of them before we take them back. All right. He said, yeah, that'd be great. We got to have somebody to pull the gate for us or whatever. One of them will pull each other's rope, So there was a little Spanish kid that lived over there, and he walked over to see what we were doing. I said, hey, you got to come help us. So a little Spanish kid come over there. We each ride one, they're just gathering them up. The bulls are standing at the other end of the arena after we ride them. We get our bull ropes off. We get a couple of them more strung up, and we're fixing to ride them. So I pull his, and he's getting on his second one, and it thumps him down, and he breaks his ankle. And he's like, oh, it's broke pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
There's one bull still left in the bucking chute there. And he crawls over there to the pickup, and he's crawled up in the back of the pickup. He said, you got to take me. He said, my leg's broke. I said, okay, I will. Give me 1 second. I said, I'm going to pull my own rope. This bull's loaded.
Yeah, you can't pass him up.
No.
It's like the last steer in the chute. You got to rope it.
It's like, yeah, you can't just turn him out.
It's like Lay's potato chips. No one can have just one.
No. And so I get little Julio over there, and I said, okay, you got to pull the gate for me whenever all right, we'll do it. This sucker, I don't know what made me think I could ride him. He turned back and dumped me over his head right there and just made hamburger of me, stepped on my elbow, broke my elbow. And so there was no cell phones back then, and it was, and
one leg broke, one elbow broke. You guys are barely even able to drive to the hospital.
Yeah, my sister's boyfriend is over there in the back of the pickup hollering at me, please take me to the hospital. So I'm I said, there are no cell phones. I told that little Spanish boy, I said, go get your mom or whatever and bring her out here. And so I told her my phone number. She called my mom. My mom came over in the car, took us both to the hospital. I came out with a cast on my arm. He came out with a cast on his leg. I said, I'm done.
And probably an ass eating from the parents because he didn't get the job done.
Yeah. Dad wasn't. Yeah. Dad didn't feel very sorry for me. He had to come get the bulls, do the whole thing I was supposed to do. I was like, I'm done. That's not my sport anymore. So,
hey, friends, if you're looking for something that inspires grit, creativity, and good old-fashioned hard work, you've got to check out Ezra Tech Ranch Gear. This isn't just another brand. It's a group of homeschooled teenagers who are learning to enterprise, building real skills, and producing high-quality gear that stands up to ranch life and beyond right here in Texas. Each piece is hand-tooled by these young men and women themselves, and the craftsmanship speaks for itself. Their truck scabbard? It's their top seller. Rugged, practical, and built to last. If you're looking for something unique for your business, they even create custom corporate gifts with your company logo. And here's what I love. Every purchase not only gets you gear you can count on, but it also supports the next generation of entrepreneurs who are learning what it takes to work hard, create value, and build something meaningful with their own two hands. Whether you're a rancher, a business owner, or just someone who loves quality American-made gear, check out Ezra Tech Ranch Gear at EzraTechGear.com. To get a 10% discount, use promo code CHARLIE10. That's CHARLY10. EzraTechGear.com, where craftsmanship meets enterprise and the future is being built one tool at a time. So when did roping start becoming an opportunity?
When I went to college, I had gotten a couple of ranch horses that we had roped on a little bit. When I was in high school, they started a roping club. It was a Tatum roping club. We didn't have horn steers or anything. It was a guy named Butch Hagerton, and he started a little roping club. We all had to pay a certain amount of dues. I don't remember what it was, but we had to take out a loan at the bank to go buy the cattle, and everybody signed up. And there was probably about 8 or 10 of us that signed on. And man, I saved my money and bought my membership to that Tatum Roping Club. This is my chance right here. So he went and bought yearlings, straight running beef yearlings, and bought those plastic horns. You don't even see them anymore. Have you ever seen them where they had the leather straps and you suck them down tight?
Yeah. They were really fun when they drug and that thing would pop off and eat a horse in the ass.
Exactly.
You went from team roping to just running off or not bronc riding.
Yeah, and it's no part of team roping having to put those things on either.
No. Between those and trying to wrap a Watusi back in the day.
I mean, it was brutal. But me and my best friend back then, his name is Joe Craig McCown, and he was my partner. He was my classmate, and we started at the same time, and we were going to, here we go. But we were so dedicated. We would go gather the cattle, and when we had a grass trap back there behind the Tatum Arena. The fences were down. They were always on the neighbors. So we had to go 2 hours and go gather the cattle, and we got them up. And I mean, this 6 o'clock, people would start showing up to rope. And it was, man, we were so pumped. We had all the cattle, there might be 10 of them, but we had the plastic horns on them, bleeding, I mean, we were whatever it took just to chase them.
Rope.
And it didn't resemble anything like team roping. It didn't resemble team roping at all. But that was kind of the start. And then when I went to college, I went to my first year at Sul Ross.
Where's that at?
Alpine, Texas. Alpine. And back then, Sul Ross was kind of a powerhouse in the NRA. That was Tuff Hedeman went there. He was winning the bull riding and the bronc riding a lot. He it was the Tarleton of today.
Back in the day.
Yeah. And we went down there. I had of all things, it was kind of an academic scholarship. I graduated in the top 10 of my class, 9th out of 25.
I was going to say.
So I got a top 10 scholarship down there, and so went down there, and what turned my career was where I got to keep my horses. There's a place called the Graveyard, and anybody that down there that ever went to school knows what the Graveyard is, and they just happened to have a couple of extra stalls, and Joe Craig and I got to keep our horses down there. And the first week we went to college down there, they had a jackpot team roping they have every year, and I entered a couple of times. I mean, I had no chance of winning anything, but there was a guy there that I saw rope, and there's a couple 100 teams. It was open, not just college kids, everybody around there. There's a guy down there that was going to school. His name was Ed Fernandez. And I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but back in the day, before your time even, people knew him. He never went and rodeoed. He amateur rodeoed, jackpotted down there around Sanderson. He's from Pecos, Texas, and I still see him from time to time. He's a good friend of mine. But he was
this late 70s, early
80s? This was in the mid 80s. I graduated high school in 82. Okay. This was probably 83, 84. And Ed Fernandez was a guy from Pecos down there, lived on a ranch. And at that roping, he was the first guy I ever saw that could catch every steer by 2 feet. I didn't think that existed. I mean, Leo Camarillo was my hero, and obviously Leo could do it. But this guy, Ed Fernandez, there was a couple 100 teams there, and he placed like 3 or 4 times. I thought, my gosh, I'd never seen that before. And that guy by happenstance, was keeping his horses out there at the graveyard. And that's where we went and practiced. And I would watch that guy and just study him. And he would, after we would practice and stuff, and we were freshmen. I mean, we had to feed the steers and we had to do all the grunt work around there. And we got to
pay your dues.
We got to run fewer cattle than anybody else. But I watched Ed, and Ed he was a nice guy, man, kind of back kept to himself or whatever. But he was, one day he asked me, he said, "Hey, you want to come back here and, let's turn some steers off of the fence back here in the catch pen on foot." And he taught me how to step around behind one. We would run them down the fence and then turn them off of the fence for each other. He taught me how to step around behind one and get where you needed to get to kind of have the best chance.
Create a shot.
And I had no sense of timing. He did, but I hadn't picked it up yet. And I threw,
So you're still in your rope and you're just kind of throwing loops.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
At this time.
I'm throwing nylon at their feet.
Yeah.
If I catch one, I have no idea why, but it just.
This guy's got the style down where he's actually knows how to time one up. He's got the loop figured out. He's been out there hours and hours and hours.
I don't know I don't know how he got that good.
Yeah.
But he could catch them all. And he kept telling me, he says, "This is what you got to look for. Look, your loop's got to be down there when the feet are back, and this and that." And
because for a lot of people, this is before videotapes. This is before there's information out there on it. People are just roping. Everyone's in a way kind of trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's evolved in a way to where at least it's a sport.
Yeah.
But not enough to where there's no cowboy toys probably by then.
No.
There's no slick steers. There's no sled dummies. There's no speed trainers. There's no, probably not even, I hadn't really heard many people roping goats quite yet.
No, people started to. I roped a goat for a while, but after I figured out, Ed told me, he says, "You'll never catch very many of them in a row until you figure out how to learn it." And that's a hand-eye coordination that matches. And I can remember, just like it was yesterday, the first steer that I ever roped where I saw it and it happened and the light went off. Yeah. And then I went through all the bad habits of stalling it, and the techniques weren't out there like they are now, to where you build to your shot, you ride to your throw and you time up as you get there.
Well, and it feels like too back then, because I remember trying to learn from my dad, and it was, you're just getting, get in position, do this, do that. And so there wasn't a whole lot of information with depth.
Right.
Because it seemed like back then, when you learned how to rope, it was off feel. You just went out there and and once you kind of figured out, okay, now can you do it again? And so they haven't really developed, when and where to turn your hand over. A lot of times I didn't even remember guys really talking too much. Like the loop was pretty generic. It kind of was, you started seeing a little bit of consistency with that, but how much between your hands, how much spoke. It's like at your era, it felt like that's when guys were starting to try to figure out all the science behind it in a way.
Very primitive back then. There was stuff they never even talked about now that are given today, but that stuff, you stumbled across it before you heard anything about it, and I had drugged thousands of calves in the Brandon pen. So I had an idea where my tip was. And if you
feel where your loop was.
Yeah. I knew I had good enough hand-eye coordination, and I had pretty good hands that I could reach over there and guide my loop. So I knew kind of the basics of that, but none of that was taught really. But when I figured out what that timing was at the graveyard, it started coming together. And then I started placing at some of the college rodeos.
What did you start seeing when you started getting the timing down? Was it anything you could even explain?
I'll tell you what it was. I'll tell you what got me there is faster than anything, is I knew that I had to be able to practice that elsewhere while I wasn't horseback and riding. There's too much going on.
Yep.
It's not going to progress fast enough. So I built out of a 2x4 and broomsticks. I built something that would swing. And Logan still got one today in his house. We rope it, and we had a little parachute cord. You couldn't rope it with something that was stiff. You had to have something that you could actually rope the feet, and you couldn't set a trap. And so and I had them where
individual legs. They go at the same time, and then they trot.
And you could do either. Yeah. Like you could make them hop, or you could just spin them,
make them trot,
make them flip over themselves, and then you just really hone in on trying to rope them when the feet came together. And that toy right there is what, in college, I can't tell you how many hours I roped that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I roped it way more than I studied, and I mean, and it,
that was to study.
No, that was, unfortunately, that was at the time, but I found something. I found a morsel right there that worked for me. And then Logan, I mean, still to this day, not as much as he used to, but golly, I mean, him and Breeley, he'd sit there in the living room in that little, not that one, but we'd built 2 or 3 or 4 of them since then. And just recognition, is what, and that's what progressed my deal more than anything. And I made the college finals one time, roped with a girl. I ended up 4th in the region, didn't make it, but she took me. Her name was Tammy Noble, and she had a sister, Charlotta Noble, and they were from Oklahoma, and they were as handy as handy 2 girls as you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And so she made it. Tammy she was a great hand in college whenever I was in college, and she made it. She was the all-around champion or whatever, so she got to go in all of her events. She took me in the team roping, and we won the average.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in 85.
Yeah.
And so then after that, I mean, it just kind of kept...
Evolved from there.
Yeah, it evolved.
One of the things that seemed like when I was growing up, it seemed like a lot of the guys that ranched, that rode every day, they were usually the ones that got the best start. They usually set up the best throw. And they usually handled the cattle because, in my opinion, they were out riding every day. Their left hand and feet were always constantly getting developed, whether they're riding finish lines, whether they're sorting cows out the calves. They're always riding. And then it seems like, okay, now to develop the rope, like you said, don't need to ride. Let's just get the right hand now to where it can react to whatever the steer's going to do, whether it trot hops, whether it hits the end of it, whether it flips over, all those different. You're creating no different than when you watch Kobe Bryant when they said he showed up 2-3 hours before a game for everybody else.
Yeah.
He was just shooting shots because he knew when he got that ball in his hand, he had a split second to be able to measure exactly how far that rim is, to know exactly where that ball is going to leave his hands, to know how much distance to give it to where it goes between the rim. And so healing to me is a lot of those instincts, to where you can read those hops. You can feel the header in your peripherals, where you can tell where the steer's about to go, or if the rope goes and the header disappears, okay, now you know what type of hip that's going to be.
You got to compensate a little.
The reactions has always got to be sharp. And so that's what I remember noticing was where so many guys now, it feels like they learn how to ride in the arena. And so everything's so focused on the right hand, because I get it, if you don't catch, you don't win. So everything's so focused on, getting that rope around the horns that their left hand, they don't even know where it's at half the time. They don't know where their start is. They have no idea where position is. Then after they get the steer caught, knowing where to go after that. And so everything is just so focused on right hand that, what I've watched was the guys that ride all the time, the riding was so much of an advantage for so many people. And it seemed like a lot of times back in those days, like where you're talking about, a lot of the guys that rope did ranch because they were able to rope and ride all the time.
Yeah, that's where the difference is in my view, in my opinion today. That's the difference. It's riding and the horses. And fortunately, I'm still a fan of it. I study it. I don't do it very much anymore, but we raise some horses and I ride some colts at the ranch and stuff, and we ride a lot. But this is my theory, and I may be completely wrong. And I might be the old guy that's stuck in his ways or whatever, but I really believe that there's something to this. The best horse I ever had was a horse that we bought when he was 18 months old. And he was a horse called Gizmo. And I rode him at the NFR. And we bought him at the horse show. But we bought him as just a ranch horse. And so, when we ranched on him, all up until he became my number one horse. And so, and Drago kind of came the same path. And ever since we've started roping and team roping and we ride on the ranch, I have a purpose. The way I ride them, even on the ranch, is designed to kind of help them in the arena. And what I mean by that is that horse was a whole lot that I had success on. About anything that I ever won was on him. And him and Drago mirrored each other quite a bit, but they had been ranched on a lot. Now, still to this day, when we're ranching, and we do a lot of sorting, we strip calves, we pair up cows, we cut dries, everything horseback. And so they really get broke to your feet if you want to get them broke to your feet. You can't get days like that on young horses. I don't believe there's a better day you can put on young horses than sorting in pens, pushing cows around, because those horses learn to lock in, and they learn to listen to you so much more than you giving them orders to do something.
They've got something to do.
Well, it lets them use their instincts.
And then also, too, I feel like their feet are starting to attach to their mind.
Exactly.
Because they've got to be able to learn how to use those feet, and those are great ways to do it.
Yeah, and every cow that I tell Logan this when we were working cows, I said, ride those horses. I mean, ride these horses. Take these opportunities to ride here to set them up, to keep their shoulders picked up when you're pushing one out and you want to get around, keep his nose stuck on that cow's
helping
butt.
that horse learn that frame at a walkthrough or however we're doing this drill. So when we start adding the cattle, somewhere almost established.
It's not in a pressure situation.
Because these are the only time, that's kind of the only groundwork you have. That's the only smarty dummy you have.
It really is.
Back then was using it in your ranching and cattle. Because, nowadays we can do that on the sleds because you can control the direction.
Yeah.
You guys are able to do it in the middle of when you're trying to work cattle to where it actually is going to help this horse when you start coming out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, this horse that we're riding right now, that we're taking to the arena, he's my tool. He's my partner. We have to be on the same wavelength. We have to be. He knows me as well as I know him before we ever go into the arena, and that's what I think. Drago was that way. He came from a ranching family, the Hennards, that broke him and started him, and he was kind of bronky as how come they still don't have him today. They have girls and whatever, and that's the only reason we got him. And so, but he has those instincts, and those instincts weren't put on him in the arena. And I'm not saying, I'm telling you, those guys that are trainers today, they're amazing. I'm telling you, Ren, Rashad, Joe's a animal.
Joseph,
it's just crazy. But I can sit there and watch a lot of those futurities, and some of those horses will get to use their instincts. In my opinion, a lot of them don't. But those guys are so talented, and those horses are so talented, and they, maybe that's the way of the future. I'm sure it probably is, but we never started one in the arena until he's 4 years old. We never did.
You laid foundation on giving them something to do.
And I thought 4 years old was too young, really. But we had rode them so much that they were locked in. They were used to using their instincts before you ever went to the arena. So their instincts were commonplace. They're cowy. Horses are cowy today. I think a lot of them are going so fast at such a young age right now that they don't get to use their instincts as much. And honestly, whenever I was rodeoing and stuff, I had a hard time getting on other people's horses just because they felt like they didn't feel like they were under me as much as the ones that but they were. I mean,
just different styles.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I mean, Mo Watkins had a little horse called Popcorn, a little buckskin horse.
That was the other buckskin?
Yeah.
That was a cool horse.
Yeah, he was cool. And I rode him a lot, and I liked him. And Monty Joe Petska had a little gray horse that Cody Cowden ended up buying from him, and I really liked that horse. He had good instincts and stuff. But having said that, I mean, the futurity deal is, it is fantastic. The level of horses that are out there is so amazing. We've got a little set of mares right now, and we're raising some. And some of ours that we're raising we're starting to ride and getting into it, and I really like that part of it. But I just think that for Logan and I, and maybe I taught him the wrong way or whatever, but that Drago was so instinctive and everything, and so give you a shot at all cost.
Yeah,
and that's the way my horse was, and you try to find a reason for it, and that's the only thing I can come up with. Yeah.
When did you start hitting? So at once you started kind of getting the feel of it, and the timing started showing up. I'm guessing we kind of wandered off and went to find some more jackpots, and then it started evolving from there.
Yeah, we started jackpotting a lot, and I tell you what, I never really got to winning. I got to winning some. I won some in college and stuff, but I I never really started winning good until I met Steve Purcell. And Steve was a couple years younger than me. And the first time I ever met him was at a jackpot in Ruidoso. They used to have huge ropings at Ruidoso. And the first time I ever roped with him was right there. He was a couple years younger than me. He wasn't very old. And then he moved in with me at college, and we roped together at college. And we started amateur rodeo, and went to a lot of jackpots. And Steve and I won a lot. And Steve was super handy. I mean, he could rope the horns. He was very competitive, and we had a great time together. We had a lot of laughs and stuff, and we lived in college, and we went through all the college stuff and whatnot. But our number one deal was he worked for his dad hanging sheetrock in Roswell, and I was ranching, not my personal, I was working for my dad. And so we would go when we could on the weekends. I mean, a lot of times I'd drive through Roswell, pick him up, and we'd go to New Mexico amateur rodeos and stuff. And back then the amateur rodeos, you could probably, for us, we could win more there than, we always had big dreams, of going to the pro rodeos and stuff, but there wasn't that much difference. And we could go back and work during the week and
make money on the weekends,
and then go and jackpot. And they used to have a lot of match opens and stuff. We had a lot of match opens back in the day. And
who was kind of the guys in that area of New Mexico that was everyone kind of was aiming towards to beat? Who were the guys to beat back then?
Monty Joe Petska, back then was he was still living around Carlsbad before he moved out west. And all the Petskas won a lot. Ken and Wes Smith, the Prices, Charlie, Sid, and Sterling, they roped really good. Ed Fernandez was in that circle of jackpotters. The Martinezes from Pecos, they were really good ropers. Crest Jones, Carl Wilkin. Carl Wilkin was, whenever Carl won, you just hoped he let you win something, But all of those guys were, I competed against them back in the day. I was trying to think of some of those. But now the rodeo guys, I amateur rodeoed with Steve and Billy Stevens a little bit. Back, he was a pretty dominant header back in those days. But there was, Steve and I roped a lot, and our plan every year is we'd go to Denver and Odessa and San Antonio. You didn't have to qualify for them back then, and we just, every year we'd say, okay, this is our year, we're gonna go, but we're still having to go back to work or go back to college or whatever, and by the time we got through the buildings or whatever, it was kind of starting to get spring, and those amateur rodeos were. And we knew we could make money at the amateur rodeos. And so we spent most of our time in Texas, because the rodeos were a little better in Texas than we were in New Mexico. A couple of weekends during the year, they had a good run in New Mexico, and we'd go, and we had pretty good success. But Texas, you could go to a lot more of them. And we had pretty good success there. And then and then one year we went, when Steve and I quit roping, was the year that I got to go to the finals with Mike Macy. And Mike roped with Terry Sellon, and they had went to the buildings and they'd won a bunch. And so Terry started roping with somebody else, and I don't remember who it was, and Mike needed a partner. And Steve and I had been roping that winter, and that was the year where that was the last year that they split and made it Heading and Heelan. So you got
there's still the
invites.
Right.
So,
and what year is this? Do you remember?
This was 1991.
91.
And so Mike was buddying with T and Bob, and him and Terry had went through the buildings, and they'd won good. I don't, like I said, I don't remember who Terry started roping with, but Mike needed a partner. And I was talking to T at a rodeo, and I said, who's Mike going to rope? And I knew Mike. He's from West Texas, and we jackpotted.
Post, correct?
Yep, jackpotted and roped together jackpots and whatnot, maybe a few amateurs, but he he had already been going to the pro rodeos with Flynn Ferris and Terry Sellon. And so he said, I don't think he's got a partner. I said, And he was up there high in the standings, maybe top 5 or something like that, and didn't take a tremendous amount to make the finals back then. And so I called him, and I called Mike, and I said, who are you going to rope with? And he said, I don't know. He said, what, you want to go? And I thought, I might get ushered into the NFR right here. That was my childhood dream. And I said, I think I will, And so I called Steve, and, Steve and I, we rode together for several years now, and told him, and I kind of hated that. But Mike and I started roping, and we just kept winning.
Yeah.
And then I can remember the start of the summer, to backtrack just a little bit, they had the NARC finals. You ever heard of the NARC finals? It was an amateur situation.
El Paso?
Big amateur kind of a finals type deal. Well, back in 91 or in the late 80s, you couldn't go. You couldn't
do both.
You couldn't do both.
Yeah.
And so 91, and Steve and I had said, okay, the end of the year is November. The new year starts in the PRCA on this November, whatever. The NARC finals kind of bled into that deadline, but we competed on the front side of it.
Got it.
And so we were good. So we hadn't been to any amateur rodeos or whatever that year in case we wanted to try to make the finals. So we were good.
And that was 91, because I remember when Mike Fuller and Shane Crosley, I think it was right around that era. I was a huge fan of those guys growing up because I would watch them at the amateur rodeos. And I remember there was a time they weren't able to go to any of those rodeos because the PRCA wouldn't let you go to both.
Yeah. So we were rocking along there, and I was roping with Mike, and man, we just started winning. Mike had 2 great head horses at the time. Wasn't a reacher, but didn't have to be, caught a lot of steers, and had 2 great horses. But anyway, we had been to a rodeo, and I went to the office to pay my fees before the rodeo, and there was a note there on the from the secretary. It said, here, you need to call this number. It's the PRCA office. I said, okay. So TJ Walters was the director of rodeo administration or whatever at the time. Said, you need to talk to TJ. He needs to talk to you. And I thought, why would this guy want to talk to me? He's up here. I'm just barely, nobody knows who I am. I need to call him. So I called him, tell him this is Jeff Medlin. He said, yeah, I was just going to let you know that you do know that you will not be eligible to compete at the NFR. And I said, why is that? And he said, because you participated in amateur rodeos. I said, no, we didn't. We haven't went to any. That's a mistake. We haven't been to any this year because of that. And he said, oh no, you were at the NARC finals. I said, and I was respectful. I said, no, Steve Purcell and I roped at the NARC finals. The cutoff date was November the 5th, and we were up in the slack in the middle of the rodeo, like the 29th and 30th in the slacks. We've not run anything. He said, that doesn't matter. He said, the NARC finals was over on November the 8th. And he said, so it carries over. And I said, but we have not competed this calendar year. And he said, I'm just going to let you know. You may have to change your plans or whatever on the rest of your this season, but you will not rope at the NFR. And so I was like devastated or whatever. And so it turns out that, there was a guy I think the year before or whatever that was in the same situation, but he didn't end up making the NFR, but he had an attorney from Denver, Colorado that said, you just keep on rodeo. And he said, we'll fix this. If you make it, you deserve to go. And so I called this guy and he said, you just keep going. He said, I've got you, whatever. And so I just kept going, and then the administration would, they'd send me something in the mail. They'd say, you do know. And I got up there pretty high in the standings, and it was, and so when it all came to a head,
what time of the year is this when it started coming to a head?
Oh, early summer, probably June.
Got it.
Was when I first found out.
What'd you find out?
When I found out that I wasn't going to be they weren't going to let me rope at the finals if I made it. And so there was another bulldogger that was he'd been going to amateurs rodeos all along, but he'd had a big winner. And so him and I were kind of joined in the same situation. And we had this, he's a big time attorney in Denver. And we had went to some meetings in Denver whenever we'd go through there and visit with him. And he said, y'all just don't worry about me. He says, if you make it, he said, we'll be ready. And as it was going down late into the year, it looked like I was going to make it. And in the meantime, Mike stayed in the top 15. He pretty much had the finals made. Wanted not to, he promised that I would be his partner, if we got this issue figured out. And so I since had dropped out of the top 15, but I didn't need to be in there. He was going to take me. And so that went on. And whenever he entered the rodeo, whenever he entered the NFR, he entered with me, and the fight was on, and so they were PRCA was sticking to their guns. Louis Cryer was the commissioner. And so they had a injunction hearing in Denver on Thursday, and the first performance of the NFR was Friday. So I had to, and then PRCA was not going to include me in anything. So I had to drive to Vegas with my horses, and Corey Kuntz was the stand-in healer if I did not get to participate. So they didn't let me run through they didn't let me break in the steers. I sat in the stands and watched them run the steers. And then with that was on a Wednesday or whatever. And then, that evening I flew to Denver, me and that bulldogger and Leo Camarillo, because D Pickett was going to take him, supposedly, and if he was going to pick Leo up. So it was me, Leo, and a guy named Leonard Haraga was the bulldogger. We flew to Denver, and we were in a courtroom all day long. And Don McLaughlin, the old calf roper from way back, he showed up to testify on our behalf. And he did. And we all took the stand. Lawyers asked us questions, cross-examined or whatever, and the PRCA had about 4 or 5 lawyers over there. We had one lawyer and a kind of an intern. And so we gave our testimonies or whatever for about half the day, went to recess, and then when we reconvened, the judge came back, and it was just a preliminary injunction, basically, was to see if there was enough evidence to hold it over for a trial or whatever. It basically kept them from keeping us out of the NFR. So we got to compete. And then, if the PRCA wanted to keep fighting it after the finals, they could. But our attorney said that if you get ruled in a preliminary injunction in your favor, 99% of the time, that means that you're gonna win. That they don't have grounds,
right?
And basically, that's what happened. It was, they found.
What was the PRCA's goal behind trying to keep people from making money? Was it the fact that they just figured they were superior in the fact of they were pro rodeo, and then, they don't want none of this going down there because, it's not like they paid, especially the team ropers. What are you guys roping at half the money at this time? So to stay moving, you've got to go where the money's at. And so what do you feel like their reason was for that?
I think it was just the exclusivity of having the Pro Rodeo Association on a pedestal, and that was and it still is that way, which they never would have given up anything. Since they threw that rule out, it hasn't changed anything really. It just lets people compete now, but and you could still compete in the PRCA and go to amateur rodeos. You just couldn't go to the big pie in the sky at the end of the year. That's what they were holding from you, And I don't really, it was on the right to work, is what they lost their case on and whatever. And that judge, when he came back and he ruled in our favor, he said, basically in so many words, these are associations too. These are associations. Your association has no right to supersede over these. It's all you're preventing a guy from earning a living, and that competes to all of your rules, your bylaws, and everything. I mean, you just don't have the right to say that. Yeah. Basically, is what they said. And so, boy, we flew in there that next. The first performance was Friday night.
Off your back had to be.
Well, yes, and sort of. Except everybody from, that you go through all of the stuff that day, they had to set back up, and we had to meet with all of those people and go through it again for us. And it was
some animosity a little bit too.
Yeah, it was in the newspapers and in the Las Vegas and stuff. You could walk around the NFR that whole year and just hear people talking about it. Nobody knew who I was, but it was just a buzz the whole time.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a bummer, really, because it wasn't like my first NFR like it probably should have been, but I didn't care. I mean, I was there. I got to run 10 steers there, and it was cool.
You and Macy?
Yeah, me and Macy.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Not very well. We didn't have very good finals, I mean, it was kind of funny. He had a bay horse called Clyde because he's marked like a Clydesdale, and he was good. Lyden Cowden rode him really well. He was one of my partners for a while, but hey, man, he got tight. He really got tight till the last, and he got on something the last 2 rounds. We placed in the last 2 rounds, and so it was good. And me and Mike are still good friends.
How long did you and Macy rope?
Oh, probably I think we roped that next spring, and then I roped. And then I mean, from whenever Macy and I quit rodeoing, we didn't win very good in the winter, so we split. And I don't remember who he went back to roping with, and I started roping. I was kind of like a journeyman that year. I roped with Jay Ellerman. I roped with Lyden Cowden. I roped with Rube Woolsey. I roped with T a little bit. Not main partners, but kind of Bob would be up in Wyoming stuff, and I was just jumping around. And
so when you made the first NFR, that was 91.
Mm-hmm.
And then so Macy said that if it was true or not, but there was a deck of cards somewhere scattered out there in Kansas. Does that sound about right? Within that year?
Boy, is that not exactly him? Yeah. Yeah. For a guy like him to be so set on a deck of on one story like this tells you all you need to know about Mike. No, we used to play cards. Golly, Mike was Mike was probably the one guy that's maybe more competitive than me, And
well, you think about just back then, the ability to be able to, people think now that it's pretty cool where you can, get on your phone and do these different things, but the multitasking then, you learn to drive with your knees better than you probably drive with anything.
Oh, I still do.
Yeah.
Cameron's the other day, she was sitting in my lap. She said, "Look, Pop, I'm driving with my knee just like you." And Macy's, that's how I got. I mean, we both drove, we drove with our knee and we dealt those cards. I can't tell you how many. And I hated to lose. One time I kind of blew a little steam and threw them out threw the cards out the window.
He said, and that was your game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
He said that he could have retired, he felt like, if T, Rich, and Twister would ever pay what they owed him. He said, the only thing is, Twister Kane, though, he said, he'll at least tell me, hey, I still owe you money.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, no, we had a lot of fun. Mike and I I talk to him nearly every day, too. We're still good friends.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to share something with you that I'm very proud of. As a clinician, my goal has always been to give you the tools to get better, and that's exactly what I had in mind when I built my online course, The Basics of Roping. I've got over 2 hours of instruction, everything from a frame-to-frame breakdown of the swing to dummy drills that'll get you ready for just about anything in the arena, plus tips on rope selection and care. Think of it like a clinic you can carry with you. You can pull it up anytime, anywhere, right from your phone or computer. Just head on over to charliecrawford.training,
Click on the course tab and get signed up. Let's keep leveling up wherever you are. And then when you made the finals, wasn't that when you had both kids as well?
Yeah,
Logan tell me that right?
Made it in 91.
That's
the
when
year
Logan
he was born, and in 96 when Abby was born.
Mm-hmm.
I roped with Brett Boatwright in 96. Yeah.
So from 91 to 96, just rodeoing a little bit, kind of in those times? Racing?
No, I mean, I kind of rodeoed along in there and was trying to make the finals. I probably really rodeoed for about 6 or 7 years pro rodeo, and I made it twice. And then that was about it. But I did. There was one year I roped with Jay Simon. I buddied with, Mark and Brett Simon, or Mark and Brett Tanazzi roped together, and I roped with Jay. And then I roped with Mark a little bit sometimes when Tanazzi would go home and stuff like that. But we buddied a lot, and it got close a couple of times. Jay and I got really close one year, but didn't make it. And yeah, we had it was crazy times. I look back at some of those guys. And we rodeoed hard. Man, it was hard. It was like,
I remember T talking about an 80 when he won the World Rookie of the Year and the average. And he said he went to 137 rodeos and turned out 3.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I tell you.
You think about Logan right now coming home, having his little girl.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like back then when you were rodeoing, trying to find out what all was going on as you're still rodeoing? What was it like back then?
Well, it was 100. I mean, when I went, you could go to 100. And I remember when I was roping with Lyd and Cowden, and we were kind of close. We didn't rope all year together, and so I had more money won than him. And the year that I made it, it was actually the year before when I was roping with Lyd, and we went to the last 3 rodeos, and you couldn't bring it up on your phone to see how many rodeos you had officialed or whatever. And so we had it all on paper, and I kept track of everything.
Because you had to wait till the month dropped to watch it to look at it in the Pro Rodeo Sports News, right?
Yeah, you just found out whenever the month came or when the monthly subscription came out, kind of where you were in the standings.
Because I remember every time you go to a rodeo, there'd be a whole stack of those magazines, and you'd grab those because the journal was in there as well to know when and where to enter.
And then they would audit it one time and send you your audit after it was all over
to a place that you're not at.
Yeah. And I found out one year when I was rodeoing, there's a rodeo in Casper, was right there the very last weekend. Yep. Casper, the Cow Palace, and something else. And I thought, man, I had it all figured. Casper's going to be my last one. And me and Lydon went out there, and we kind of needed to win like 2,500 or something. And we had to win first to make the finals. And we didn't win anything. And so we went home dejected knowing we didn't make it. And when I got my audit out, that was my 101st rodeo anyway. And I had made a mistake. There's one way back.
One you forgot.
Back here. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, those things, I can only imagine how difficult that was back then.
Yeah. The year that I did make it, though, this is kind of an interesting story. I was roping with Sean Grant at the end of the year. Sean Grant had a really good horse, and I had kind of jumped around a little bit that year, but had won pretty good. I don't even remember who all I'd won with, but most of it was with Sean Grant. Sean was about 5,000 behind me. And so both of us had kind of been in the top 15 in and out, but I'd been in nearly all year long since about March. I mean, I had been in the top 15 all year long. And then going into the last weekend, I got moved to 16th. And so we were going to run a few steers. We had 2 rodeos. We had the Cow Palace, and we had one up there in Washington, and I never can. Little two-header.
Pasco.
What is it?
Pasco, Washington.
Pasco, yeah. That those were our 2 rodeos. We were 16th, and we went out there, ran our first one. It was first and last back then. We ran our first one at the Cow Palace and made a good run. I think we ended up winning second in the first round, and that kicked me back up into the top 15. And then we went up there. Well, to backtrack just a little bit, Sean wanted to run just a few on his horse before we took off in Phoenix and went to the Cow Palace. And we'd run about 4 or 5 steers, and he just kicked his horse back up there or whatever. Last steer, he said, I'm just going to run up there and just kind of kick him back up there right over. He said, I might not even turn him off. I said, no big deal. Well, it's cool. And so he runs up there, sticks him, and holds his horse up, and I hear a pow. shattered his ankle.
Golly.
Not even turning the steer off. And so we take him to the vet, and we're up at Cow Palace the next morning in the slack. Take him to the vet. They X-ray it. Man, it's shattered. He's done. We put him down. He doesn't have another horse. So we're headed to he's crying, and he's got a chance to make the finals. He's a little bit behind me, but if we win good, we can both make it. So we go out there. He has no horse, and we've got 2 rodeos left. He calls. It's like 3 or 4 hours into it. He doesn't even want to talk to anybody about it. He loved that horse. And so I called Charles Pogue, and Charles had Scooter out there. I said, man, if you're going to get on one, Charles will let you get on Scooter. He knows the situation or whatever that you're in or whatever. So we call him, and Sean talks to him, and he goes, yeah, man, shoot, yeah, whatever. I feel horrible for you.
Golly, so Chuck lets him on?
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it was cool.
That was the horse.
Yeah,
that was the horse.
The best one of all time, I think, in my eyes. But anyway, he rides him, and we win second the first round. Gets him close, gets me in, whatever. So, but you know how it is like that. A lot of times the guys on the end that last week, they all win. So the line keeps moving. We go to Pasco or whatever and place a little bit there and come back and the second one at the Cow Palace, we're still needing to stay in the averages 2 and short. We went second the first round. We run our second one, and in the box at the Cow Palace, they have those big heavy gates that close. It's a wall. It was a wall, and those big heavy gates that would swing out. Well, there was
the hinges.
There was a hinge that stuck out a little bit. It didn't stick right straight out into the mouth of the box, but it was kind of back just a little bit. And
is that when Doughboy hit it?
This same bolt, it broke his leg. That bolt stuck in my leg.
Oh, so you hit it too?
I hit it before he did. I hit it, and it just shredded my pants off, and I still have a scar there where it stuck in my leg and just ripped. And Sean went out there, turned him. And I healed him, caught him. We were like 7-something, made the short round. And then there's paramedics right at the very back of the arena, and I rode straight out and went to the paramedics. They cut the rest of my pants off, and it was just a big open wound where that bolt had just ripped through my leg, and had to go have stitches and cut it up. Didn't break anything, but that's the same bolt that broke Doughboy's leg. And so
you think negligence, you know what I'm saying?
Like, why couldn't they fix that?
Yeah, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah, and it turns out we messed up in the short round, and I ended up making it, and Sean was a little bit short.
Yeah,
but
so I remember when you guys flew up to Puyallup.
Yeah,
and this was my permit year. I was just graduated high school, and I had a pretty good little horse. He's a ranch horse, but he's bronky as shit.
Remembering
Skeeter, and I remember when you guys flew up there, Sean asked to jump on. Remember back then it was in that little green building.
Yeah.
So when you first walk into Puyallup, there's a little green building. I believe it's a green building, a little show barn.
Yep.
And that's where I remember where the rodeo was at. That was before you had to walk through the whole crowd and where it's at now. It used to be in that little tiny green barn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the first time I met you, and man, it was cool. It was after that, as being a young kid, every time I seen you, that's one of the things I respected so much about you. You always remember my name, always talked, and Sean at this point is like, oh man, anytime you ever need something, man, let me know. I owe you one. And, that was when I started feeling the camaraderie amongst the guys, and it was pretty
I remember
cool.
when you came on the scene, you were shoeing horses, doing whatever it took to get your money together to keep going. And I used to tell everybody, I said, that guy, he'll make it. He'll make it. I could always tell you had that determined look in your eye.
Yeah. It was for me, I loved you guys out there because it was the freedom. I loved the way it looked, because when I grew up in Canby, a lot of the guys would come stay at the house. Like Jake and Clay would come stay at the house. We had an arena, which back then that's almost like having an indoor. That very few people seemed like had the places where they go rope. So anytime in between, we always had a few steers. They'd come rope. They were in and out. I got to take care of some of the horses. They'd rope the dummy with me. I mean, it was the coolest thing. But the stories that everyone was talking about, it was just the coolest thing ever. And I was like, for me, that is it. Like, there's nothing else I want to do more than that, because I just enjoyed the freedom of it. That you see, no boss.
Yeah.
Go wherever you wanted to go and see the whole world. It was the coolest, most romantic thing ever.
Well, and I mean, that shapes your life, all that stuff too, because I mean, my friends today are still the ones that live all over the country. They're not from down home. I mean, I have friends there, but all of my really good friends are just the friends I made rodeoing and stuff. And that's something you can't replace. And that's the stories and I mean, just all of that stuff we lived through. And I know things have changed a lot, but golly, for me, it's all of the stories. When you get, you kind of get old, that's all you got, some memories, I mean, it's kind of true what they say, but
there's some good ones.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones, but
some worldly ones. And then Abby, she was born in
96
in that area too.
Yeah,
so you think about Logan being able to fly home, on the phone. Back then you had to pull over probably every however long at each gas station and call home on a payphone.
Payphones, yeah, you had to have enough change, to keep trying if it was busy and stuff like that. Yeah, it's changed a lot, but everything has. And I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy that says, well, it was different back then. I'm telling you, these guys today are better. I don't care what the old guys say. I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, there's guys. How awesome is it for a guy like Walt Woodard?
Has literally kept Father Time under his boot heel.
That guy is amazing.
It's amazing.
He is amazing.
So cool.
I mean, back in the day,
I've been dying to get him on. He's like, Chuck, I appreciate it. I respect you. I think you're a great competitor. You know that, but he's like, I just want to rope and tell him. I don't want to tell my story where he told it.
I know.
I'm like, I'm going to stay on you.
Yeah,
I'm staying on you.
I mean, he's a great storyteller and everything.
Oh, one of the greatest storytellers.
Just a great guy to sit there and visit with and everything. But just the longevity that he's had, what he can do at his age, and I'm not bashing him that he's an old guy, but I mean, I'm younger than him, and he stays on top of it, and he competes,
loves it.
Yeah, he studies it. I just, man,
I love it.
I mean, I was way back from the sticks and flies to where he is today. I mean, he's just he's made a career.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I mean, to think that what Dustin Esquiza and Driggers and those guys. I mean, to me, what I always, when I had Pard on and when I had T on, for me, it's like the ability to with this podcast to be able to appreciate the guys that paved the way for not only me, but where these guys are at now. That was an era where everyone was figuring out by just throwing enough loops, and whoever put the most work in and figured it out was the guys who were winning.
Yeah.
And, now there's so many things and ways to study. You can watch every run on the Cowboy channel. You can watch every run on social media. There's so many different ways with GoPros and the glasses now that you can see what they see. And I mean, the technology now is just, it speeds it up so much more.
Yeah.
The sleds, all the things that they have. But back then, you guys were the grinders. You guys were the ones that developed the blueprint.
It was kind of trial and error. And I mean, the greatest healer of all time will always be Clay O'Brien Cooper in my book. The longevity of him. I mean, he could go now, and I
seen where he cracked out in California this spring in 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, that guy, he's a good friend of mine. He was always a good friend. Him and Logan have a really special relationship. They talk a lot, probably weekly. They just bounce stuff back and forth from each other, and I respect him for doing that. But he's a great guy. But you stay in it long enough that you realize things that I was certain about at certain times of my career were wrong. Like, and a perfect example is Walt Woodard. I mean, whenever he was doing clinics, man, before I could even coil up a rope, and he was preaching the sticks and flies and stuff. And I remember him saying that the most important thing healing is your position. And whenever I got to where I was catching and stuff and I could catch the lot, I was like, that's not right. The most important thing is you got to be in time with them, because you can be in perfect position and throw out a time and miss and maybe not have a clue why. But the longer I stayed in it, he's right. And I was wrong, because your position is more important. And he's been preaching that for 30 years, that is your position was. And I just figured out, if you're not in the right position, even if you're in time with one, you're compromising your percentage of catches by being in the wrong position. You can throw in time, but high on the right. Several reasons why when you're in the wrong position right there that you should catch one and you don't. So Walt Woodard was right. He was right way back when.
Yeah. And he's done such a good job being one of the first guys too to create kind of a metaphor and a visual for teaching.
Yeah.
To be able those sticks and flies and the things that he talked about gives guys a kind of something to grasp onto where they could see a visual, so they could see what he was saying, and he was one of the first guys to jump on that.
And I was probably preaching against him there for a while, because I thought sticks and flies, I mean, that's, I'd say, man, that's just a gimmick. That's just something people say to kind of a catchy little, but no, that's right. It's like you said, it's a visual, it's like, I'm telling you to knock those flies off of that steer, and they swing right there over his tip, over his tail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was ahead of his time. I think he really, he's a whole reason why it progressed as fast as it
100%. Yeah.
As it has.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then on the head side, then when Speedy showed up, because you were kind of right there when he first showed up, and man, it was just the explosiveness after that was unbelievable.
Those headers, there's a few of them that there's been a lot of great headers. Maybe you can count on one hand the ones that have changed the game, that took it to a different level.
Well, you seen Jake and Clay with the consistency, and they were aggressively consistent. But you just, if it come down to a catching contest, they were they were kind of like Iceman.
Yeah,
you don't want to screw up or do something stupid.
Yeah,
bam, they're going to have you.
Yeah,
and then Speedy just broke. I mean, I remember the first time in '90, I think it was '97, because I went back to amateur rodeo and after '96, and was trying to get my horse herd built up. So when I went to '98, I was trying to win Rookie of the Year. And '97 is when they showed up in the Northwest, and they showed up at an amateur rodeo, and it was with Jason Stewart and Bucky Campbell, I believe, and Speed and Rich were cracking out. It was around Ellensburg time, and it was on Viper, and he hits the barrier and fires it, and this thing goes on tight, and every one of us looks around, and we're like, it was like witnessing somebody walk on water for the very first time.
Yeah.
And here was the other thing. I remember when I was going to some rodeos too, and he cracked out. Speed was against the mold at almost everything. When he would go in the box, he turned away from the steer. And I remember when he did it, everyone went,
yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember growing up going, why does it matter which way you turn? Why do I have to turn toward the steer?
And it doesn't matter.
My horse is going to look away and rear each time anyway. You know what I mean? Whatever horse I was riding, he's going to score like shit after I not anyway. Why does it matter if I turn toward the steer? Yeah. And when he showed up and did it the opposite way, everyone was like, he doesn't even know which way to turn his horse.
Yeah, and then not long
everyone
after
was making fun of him, right?
Not long after that, everybody's like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Then after they watch him just hit the start and went on tight, they're like, I started turning my horse away from it. I'm like, whatever that guy's doing, we need to figure out how to do what he's doing. Because it looked easier and faster than anybody that we've ever seen.
Oh, I know it.
It was amazing.
I mean, I think there's guys like the dude, H.P. Evans.
Yeah.
I think he changed the game by bombing. Yeah. I mean, it was a different deal back then, and then, of course, Jake Barnes. I mean,
just a consistency.
Yeah, probably.
Those guys would just run them and run them.
Probably in my book, probably the greatest header of all time, because his work ethic is probably still second to none to anybody. And then Speed,
And Speed's work ethic.
Oh, and Speed
was up there. He had found a niche right there too, and he was putting on just as much work to perfect it as well. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a heck of a time to watch when you were there, because those were two legends that were, I think, the blueprint that Jake and Clay put together on how to finish a run. To me, they nailed it. When you're high team back, and for me, just the perfect example was Sinigeni and Bueller at Reno.
Yeah.
They had to be 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
The blueprint of running up there and setting up a run, to me, that's where Jake and Clay, I thought, just mastered. And then you watch Speedy just do it faster.
Yeah. And Jake and Clay, they put the team in team roping. It wasn't heading and heeling when they did it. They worked at it. They built a run. They were really the first teams that I can remember that just built their run together, and boy, did it work.
Yeah. So 96, you made it, and then who did you rope with in 96?
Brett Boatwright.
Boater, that's right. And then how was the finals?
Not good. I mean, neither one of my finals were very good, and neither one of us roped very good, but we went out of the average first. I can remember Boater got his horse got over the rope. And we had like in the second round or something like that. Steer come out and went left hard and kind of crossed over, and man, he roped and that steer just really beat him to the left, and that sorrel mare was trying to cut out of there and got her leg over the rope, and she was going nuts and whatever, and he finally ended up having to turn his rope loose. And that was when you had 3 loops and stuff, and it just kind of never
bounced back.
We placed in a few rounds or anything, but we never had.
And that was before Eagle Money too. Correct?
Yeah.
So I think it was late 90s or early 2000s, I think, when they finally broke that mold.
Yeah. And,
that's what I tell everyone, when we talk about the similarities between what the team roping went through and where the breakaway's at.
Mm-hmm.
To think of Calgary still don't have it during a perf. You know what I mean? To think like they're still stuck back when you were seeing that stuff pretty regular in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then now seeing where breakaway is at pretty much every big rodeo except the main one.
I know.
So wild to see where those...
I know it. And I don't know what the reason is really. I think hopefully someday they'll get it. They've done a lot this last year. They added twice as much as they did last year, but it's still not Calgary like everybody else's Calgary. And we went up there this year and watched Calgary. Blaine.
I've seen you up there.
Yeah.
That was
Blaine.
Fun. What a cool rodeo, though.
Oh, man. That is
not
cool.
not dissing the rodeo. The rodeo's amazing.
It's an amazing, rodeo to watch. And it kind of equals Cheyenne to me down here.
That's what I thought too.
But man, what an amazing rodeo. But we went up there and watched Blaine and kind of took a tour up there, and it was cool. I really enjoyed Calgary. I hope they do, because I think it'll be iconic for the team roping world. The team roping world is huge.
Well,
now.
and you think how many kids now are starting to come from Canada. They're having a chance to make the NFR.
Golly, there's a lot of those Canadians real good.
A lot of kids that are sticking from up there.
Yeah. And, you talk about, putting up a lot of, it's a lot of effort to come from Canada to rodeo all year long.
Amen. That's one of the things I always tell them is like the amount of work that they put in to be able to rope as good as they did.
But
different than what the opportunity we have down here.
There's a lot. There's getting to be more of them. They're progressing. Those Graham boys look like they got a shot. I hope they make it. They got a chance. Logan talks about, it's Dylan. Is that the healer?
I believe so.
He really likes his horse. Yeah, really.
And I heard he just got him back, maybe.
Yeah.
I thought that's what I heard.
Maybe so, yeah.
The Charlie Crawford Podcast is proud to partner with NRS. Don't forget to shop this destination for all things Western. NRS has everything you need from boots, hats, apparel, bits and spurs, saddles, ropes, feed, and more. Visit their flagship store in Decatur, Texas, as well as other locations in Granbury, Texas, and Wickenburg, Arizona. From your hat to your boots and everything in between. Shop NRS in-store or online at nrsworld.com.
So after 96, now you got two kids on the ground. You got Logan on the ground, and he's probably, 10?
Logan was...
not quite there.
He's 5.
5, yeah.
Yeah, he was there 5 years apart.
And then Abby was just being born.
She was a baby, yeah. And
how much longer did you go till where it was like... And then what made you decide that was it?
Well, a couple years. I always knew I was going to come back to the ranch. It was just kind of a given, and I have a passion for it, you know. And so I had those 2 kids, and I just decided, it was time for me to come back and be a dad. And I roped and I rodeoed, and I'd go to some rodeos and whatever, but I just never, things had to change. I mean, I really felt a calling that it was, I really probably accomplished more than I ever dreamed I could have just by going to 2 finals with, and it wasn't a storied career or anything like that, but it was good for me. But I always, I was going to be a dad first and a husband, and just like most people are, and they make it easier. I mean, it's possible to do both these days, It's tough.
I couldn't see it, when I was time for me, because for me, I guess mine would be different in the fact of when Journey was born, or when she was about to be born, and mine was kind of similar, but mine was my last 2. Creed was born when I roped with Joe at the NFR in 17, and then when Journey was when Jackie was pregnant with Journey was in 20. She wasn't born until 21, but basically it's kind of along the same kind of lines.
Yeah,
and that's when I got to rope with Logan, and that was a hard choice for me.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the times where I felt like I was back.
Yeah.
I was actually roping better than I'd ever roped.
Yeah.
I'd gotten over the hump on some things I was wanting to change and evolved and felt like and then my horses were there. When roping with Logan, that was the easiest partnership for me because how close we lived together.
Yeah.
We liked to work out at the same amount. He was a great leader from behind. He was a great guy to where he was always, when do you want to rope? He was able to put in the amount of work that I was wanting to do as well.
Yeah.
But it wasn't killing it to where you're burning yourself out. He had a good feel of where everything was at. When we looked at rodeos, we were always on the same page. It was just the easiest partnership ever. But when Journey was about to be born, it was like, man, I know when I'm locked in, I don't see shit.
Yeah.
When I'm practicing, I don't know if I have kids. I don't know what time it is. I had to set an alarm on my phone because I kept forgetting Creed at school.
Could you hear it all the time?
The vibrator's a life changer.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, and then Logan could hear, so if I said it out. But that was just the way I competed.
Yeah.
I was just zeroed in. That was all I seen. And when I rodeoed, man, I was consumed by it. And that was all that mattered. And I was just like, golly, for me, I just don't think I could be a good father and still keep doing that.
Yeah.
And also where Jackie's opportunity finally was taken off. And so for me, it was easy because a lot like what you said, when I look back and think of 10, I never would have dreamt I'd had 2.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, this was way more than I ever could have imagined.
Yeah.
And I remember Logan always talked about when we would be in the rig, and he was like, man, when my dad said he was done, he was done.
Yeah.
And it was Dad. He was always my coach. He was always there for me. He said every time I needed anything, we were, he was always there. I could always find him. And I'm like, man, to me, that's a man.
Yeah.
That's our calling.
Well,
and
it is.
I didn't feel like I could juggle both.
I mean, it was conviction. I mean, I know these days, I mean, I live by conviction. And I think, I mean, when God's telling you, if you're looking for what God has to tell you, if you're looking for a message from Him, you'll see it. And you'll see it in different ways, and you'll hear from Him. And sometimes it's amazing how He shows you things, and it was just, and one of my big things is these days, I mean, if you're looking for a word from God, it's there. And whenever you hear it, you need to be convicted by it and follow that conviction, because it doesn't lead you to the wrong decision.
Yeah. Ken Bray and I, we have a Bible study every week here in one of the books that we've been reading, and it was talking about, what distractions do you feel like as a father that there are out there to keep you from being the husband or the dad you want to be. And the distractions that I kept thinking of, that are there for, I think, so many of us is the selfishness.
Yeah.
When I look at it, especially for me, because I had to guard okay, man, I went the other day. It was pretty fun. I made the short round of the Spicer Grip. My horse felt pretty good. Then that selfishness of wanting to enter a little bit more, that little carrot stick that kind of, and I was like, okay, well then what am I skipping? What am I sacrificing? Because if you're rodeoing, you're sacrificing. You're sacrificing parts of your marriage. Or if you're a dad, you're also sacrificing time away from home. And when you're single, there's no sacrifice.
Right.
It is all in.
No.
But as you get older, what are you willing to sacrifice? Yeah. And for me, I'm not willing to sacrifice much more than just maybe a fraternity here or a little jackpot here, because then it's like, okay, then now how much more am I got to practice?
Yeah.
Because you're going to hang with those guys if you don't put in the work. So it's always that selfishness is like that one thing. I write it down because it's not just that one word. It's like, okay, is it entering more? Is it when I come home, am I on the phone too much? Am I present when I'm here? All those things that kind of boil down to that little thing of, am I drinking too much? That's a selfishness because it's a long day or whatever, like, no. Are you there for your, all those things? I look at it and it's all the biblical principles of what you're saying, the conviction of what kind of man do I want to be? When Logan was talking about that, it was so cool because one of the also things too, is I was really wanting to ask you when you're on this podcast was Logan's probably one of the best men I've met, especially of that of his age.
Thank
he always
you.
had an old soul.
Yeah.
You know, Abby as well, always the most respectful. I just enjoyed being around your kids. And so like when you were home and you said, I'm dad, what was your strategy? What was your philosophy? How did you coach your kids to be who they became?
Well, what I always refer back to is greater love has no man that he lay down his life for his friends, you know. And there's mountains of truth in that, because I think that's John 15:13. And you've never had a greater blessing than when you see your kids do something that just it's pure elation. It gives you something in your heart that you don't feel very, very often, even in a big win. A big win's great. I mean, how many guys have you seen, that win the championship or something like that, and then the next day the next season starts, and you've got a gold buckle, but the next day, it's like, Steve Northcott alluded to that. He said, somebody asked him, what was it like when you got that gold buckle?
A couple weeks later, you're already in Odessa.
You're already in it. And he said,
over.
It really wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and that's materialistic. I mean, that's just.
It seems like it gets put into the golden calf. It feels like it turns into a false idol real fast if a guy lives his life that way.
It's a huge thing, but it gets put on a pedestal because it starts at such a large industry right now, and it's the pinnacle, which everybody strives for. If you're not competitive, you're striving for the pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
But you get that, and a lot of people think, oh man, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
It seems like it's so hard to be competitive, but then also stay grounded.
Yeah.
It seems like that's the constant balance.
But what's most important. You wouldn't sacrifice one of your kids for a gold buckle, and so your priorities change, maybe your wisdoms change, your convictions change, and at this point, my life has always been, my kids, my family were going to come first, but I was sacrificing, like you said. I mean, you just look back and you think, golly, I'd give anything right now. Logan's last week, up there in the Northwest, his wife's fixing to have a baby and they're struggling and they're not winning. And it's just like, I know the feeling, and so do you. You just think, golly, I wish I was home, but you have to compartmentalize all that stuff, and Breeley's, she's the best mom ever, the best wife ever. I love her to death. And they make it. They're a great family and everything. And this is what they do. This is what you do. You're going to be connected to team roping from here on. This is what you do. So you have to find that middle ground, to keep doing something that people travel all over the world. Everybody has to make sacrifices, but you find that level playing field right now. I mean, my son and my daughter, to a point, she competed for a long time, but she's got a good business now, and she really likes her business, and I'm super proud of her. I wouldn't want her to be rodeoing if she do it. I want her to do both of them do what they want to do.
Yeah,
Logan's got that competitive gene that I had and that my dad had, and I don't know if it's a great thing, but he's got it, and he likes to compete. He was in high school. He wasn't that big in high school, but he was just a
great athlete.
He was just a monster on the football field and on the basketball court and all that stuff. And he's just a competitor,
I always loved how well balanced though he was.
Yeah.
When we would rope, it was time to rope, but then to do some different things.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, for me, it was good because I was coming off of probably in 19. I never roped worse. I was trying way too hard. I was trying to make it a job. I was trying to be out there 8 hours, 10 hours and just burning myself out. And he was good because we were going to put in 2-3 hours and it was full focused, videoed, watch it, but then go do something else for this little bit.
Yeah.
Not just burn out and max out and peak and drop. And so when we started competing, I was like, man, I could feel the monkey off my back. But one of the things also, in my opinion, I'll tell everyone this all the time, is because if you want to be a good healer, the ability to learn to lead from behind, I thought Logan had it as good as anybody. Because I remember when I got back in 19 and I missed the second one in the short round, or I missed the second steer at Pendleton to make the short round. And I was like, man, that's the one thing I prided myself on was I could finish.
Mm-hmm.
I could go catch one if I needed to go catch. And I was like, even that was eluding me. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I got my insurance adjusting license, and I told Logan, I said, look, man, I totally get it. I totally get it, man. You're start of your career. I have roped horrible. And if you going into next year, I don't want to hold you back. If you got a chance to rope with somebody better, have at it, man. You're not going to, remember, we were friends first, because that was one of the, we should have roped when Joe and I quit roping, when Joe was going to go back to fraternity. But I was so concerned about roping with my friends, because I've seen it destroy too many people's friendships. And Logan and I was good buds, and I didn't want to ruin that. When I roped with Patrick, and when him and I quit roping, we actually became better friends afterwards than when we were roping. And I was like, okay, so you can separate the two. So when Logan and I started roping at the end of 19, I told him, I said, look, if you need to split, I totally get it. And he's like, no way. He's like, I know what you can do. I know there's more in the tank. He said, I've seen it in glimpses. He said, we get home, we get to practicing. He says, I know it's going to be there. Your horses are good. He says, I know I can do better. And he's like, we're going to make it next year. And that was just enough for me to like, all right, this dude's got my back. Because that's why I liked roping with younger kids, and I liked roping with guys that didn't make it, because I liked roping with people that wanted to rope with me.
Yeah.
I liked the opportunity of building a team. I liked the fact that, like, if I missed, it wasn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know, and then the fact that he was younger, but then just that leadership that he had. So, I mean, we came home and we started throwing some 3-second runs, 4-second runs. The what I was working on was starting to show up. And going into the next year, I think when we went to, I think if I remembered right, even though it was a COVID year, when we got done, I think after the 4th of July or something like that, I think we went to 17 rodeos, placed at 14. I mean, our stats were like, it was just catch.
A lot of those were one-hitters.
Yeah. And when we had to catch, we caught. When we had to go be fast, we'd be fast. Like, it was just a vibe that was so cool. But a lot of that had to do with his leadership, how well he managed the team. You weren't looking around the corner. You didn't feel like you were going to get cut each week. You know, his humbleness, his leadership, but then his loyalty.
Yeah.
And as far as team roping goes, those are huge things.
Yeah.
And his horses. He always had good horses, and he roped good. But the loyalty, man, was a big one for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's been loyal. He's not a guy to try to give up on something. You know, that was the difference between him and my career. I mean, I roped with way more. I didn't rodeo as nearly as long as he has, but I roped with several different partners, you know, and it was, you know, I kind of jumped around, but he's figured that out, and he didn't learn that from me, but he's like, no, I mean, I don't want to invest so much time and so much energy in something just to throw it away. If it's, you know, that's
when it gets hard.
It's not a good sound policy, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's worked well for him.
Well, I could see that even just with his marriage, you know, with him and B, how well they got along.
Yeah.
Like, there was time and effort put into that. You know, when him and I roped, it was just the loyalty of it. Like I said, as far as a man, he was probably one of the greatest men, you know, especially of his age. He was just such an old soul.
And he was, you know, like back in high school and stuff, he had that same personality playing sports and stuff. He was just the kid that was more dedicated than anybody out there. He wanted to see it through, and you know, if his teammates and stuff weren't given as much as he was, he didn't like that.
Yeah, but
he wasn't the coach to go up there and, you know, and he wasn't going to berate him or anything like that. You just got to get him going, keep him going. Let's go. Come on. We got a prize at the end of the line here. And he had some pretty successful teams, you know, and I think a lot of that plays into his rodeo and was his high school athletics and having to, you know, suppress this relationship and pump this one up and, you know, and.
Well, you learn people skills. You learn how to play a team sport. And, you know, that's what he was saying. You know, sports were big and roping was big. And so, you know, now my kids are going through the sports. We're soccer right now, and roping's there, but I love the sports side of things. I love the team. I love, and also too, I feel like it's a big deal for hand-eye coordination.
Oh yeah,
you learn how to deal with different people. Yeah. But then another thing is you kind of learn what 100% is, because I think a lot of us float around at 60 that have never really just done a real sport, because like the Navy SEALs say, there's usually about 40% more.
Yeah.
And when you find that and you tap into it, you enter a new realm that a lot of people don't know. And I think that creates a work ethic, whether it's in and out of the arena, whether it's off the field or in the field. But also, too, is you also, in my opinion, know a little bit how to manage your horses and what they can and can't take.
Yeah.
Fitness, the importance of being able to keep your horses legged up, because if you don't, they're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Well, if you've played sports long enough, you come in off the summer playing football and you ain't been working out and all those different things, you learn what your body can and can't take. That's what I think about the sports. But then, Logan was always telling me, like, you was always there coaching, always there with him. And so, like, that's when I've been hauling Creed around and journeying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'm on the field. I may not be the assistant coach, but I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And
that competitive edge comes out in you.
Yeah. And I don't give a rat's ass if we win.
Yeah.
I'm not that competitive. What I want is that 100%.
Yeah.
I want you to know where that dog's at.
Yeah.
Because if you can find that'll go beyond the field.
Well, that 60% is easy. That 60% comes, and if you're talented and you have some success and stuff like that, that 60% wins you a lot right there. But I think when you get to rodeoing and stuff like that, you got to go the extra mile. You got to do the things that aren't fun.
That's when you're starting to feel it right now.
Yeah,
fourth quarter.
Yeah,
this is when it gets hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really, that fun about driving all the way across nearly to Canada and start rodeoing up there in the end of the year. I mean, that's not. You don't have that feeling. It's not the same feeling as going to Fort Worth and Reno. And here we go, and here's the big buildings, and we're going to Denver. Let's start it. This is our year.
Yeah.
It's a grind up there, and that's that other 40% that you're tapping into.
For sure,
and it makes a difference. And like Logan, he probably honestly had more natural gifted ability in playing basketball and football than he did roping. I mean, he's really had to rope. He really has worked at his rope, and it's been a grind. He's gotten to where he is now by sheer practice and trial and error and working at it, because it just didn't come as natural to him as it did a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But
it's funny when we're talking about coaching and I was talking to Logan and I'm like, that's when hauling Journey and Creed and stuff. And it's Journey's now playing soccer for the first time. And she's 4 and she's on the field. And the other day, Logan's asking me, he said, well, how did that look? And I said, okay, let's paint this picture. I said, her being on the soccer field with other 4-year-olds, I said, just visualize a number 3 header that's backing in the box and staying on is kind of his goal.
Yeah.
And Billy Jack Buttcrack is right over beside him on the hillside, who's also a number 3. And his back cinch is hanging way low. And he just bought this new rope and his hat's on backwards. And they bought 20 head of fresh steers. And they're fixing to go at him. They've never run them through. Nothing. And there's hats.
Yeah.
There's cattle all over the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they won't go out. And they're just chasing shit all over the arena. And I said, that's what that practice session looks like.
Oh,
and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. And if I was a neighbor watching that, I think that's hilarious too.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. It is.
Yeah, that's what
it's intense also.
So awesome.
It's so intense. I mean, we went through all of that, and golly. I mean, I was the dad, I mean, I coached a lot and stuff, and I'm not going to say that I always, sportsmanship wasn't exactly where it should have been, but I tried, but holy cow, you see a lot of stuff come out of moms that you didn't know were there.
No shit. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like I said, I don't care about the winning. Mine's effort. That is me and Jackie is all about effort.
Yeah.
If you effort, the dubs will come.
If they learn to give the effort, the results will come.
Yeah, we talk about fourth quarter and efforts. And
have
you been watching to me, this is when it starts getting fun, is when about Ellensburg, I like start paying attention on who's doing what. And because this is the fourth quarter. We're getting close to, I always say about Pendleton's about the 2-minute warning.
I know.
But, I tell you what, it seems like right now the team that's made the biggest bounce, I thought, was Andrew Ward and Jake Long.
Boy, just here lately too, and you knew it was coming. I mean, those guys.
Them being where they were at for as long as they were surprised me.
Yeah, and it was a struggle. I mean, when Andrew and Jake started roping together, they had some technical issues, that just didn't
I watched them I think when they cracked out, I think they won the Cody Joe, the Co Johnson, Cody Joe, Kojo. And I was like, man, this team looks good on paper. And then the winner really wasn't just
didn't really take off, you know. And I think credit to Jake, Logan and Jake are good friends, and you know, and they, you know, I'm a fan. I'm always digging for information and stuff like that. And they talk, you know, strategies and you know, all the things. And credit to Jake. I mean, Jake, golly, what a healer. I mean, he throws fast and he probably catches fast more consistently than anybody ever saw. But he wasn't doing so much. That he was getting some legs, and he had to kind of adjust his position a little bit. And I mean, Andrew was kind of up and out, and Buddy was, you know, when Buds was, he had that nailed right there. He'd hang back just a little bit and peel in there behind him and get him. You know, that's how they set the record at the NFR. And Jake was just getting up there a little bit too high, you know, I mean, that's his comfortable spot. But man, they put it together now, and they've just done what we all expected they would do. Absolutely. You know, and
that Clint Summers, summertime, man. His riding and roping has impressed me all year.
Yeah.
That horse, I would think, has to be in the running for horse of the year because he's rode him everywhere. And they look like when I started seeing him about Pecos, it just looked consistent and steady.
Yeah.
Just steady runs.
I think Clint,
all summer.
I think Clint has a spot in the horse of the year running every year he wants one.
Yeah.
I mean, he does a fantastic job with his horses. And, you know, and Clint stays within himself. He can reach. He can reach it. When the NFR rolls around, you'll see it.
Yep.
But his game is to beat you down everywhere they go.
Yeah.
You know, and of course he's got the Jade. He's got Jade down. Jade's a catcher. He's catching this
no
guy
matter
all
what
the time.
they do.
No.
I mean, like Clay Cooper. There's not going to be a steer that he hasn't seen.
No, and he'll just sit right over there. I mean, I use him all the time whenever Logan and I are talking. You know, I mean, I just think he's just so patient, and so he can patiently rope one on the first immediate hop.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, he just has it. He just knows what that steer's going to do for you. He does it. I mean, they're a tough team. You're not going to keep them from winning.
Driggers and Junior, man, to watch them, I don't know where they were at starting Reno time, but just a ladder they're climbing back in their top three.
I think they were just sitting back just so they could say, watch this, you know. And, you know, knowing Driggers, I mean, golly, that's, you know, what do you say about them? I think they're the best two out there.
Now, when you look at the bubble, it's like, all right, who's waiting? Because, you know, you think about J.C. Aquo. He's got done winning Ellensburg. And so he's got some momentum. He's 17th, got some momentum coming in. But then you think, okay, who hasn't won in a while and because these guys you can't hold down for long.
No.
So it's almost like, can they get on the roll these last couple of weeks? You know, Luke Brown hit some strides as well. You know, the Graham boys, Dawson, they've been win Walla Walla.
I mean, so Dawson Graham is 15th right now. How confident can you be when you're looking at the guys that you're swimming with in the same pool?
The Shark Tank.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you look, just scroll down there. There's Shea that's super talented and really just getting better all the time. J.C. Aquo, I mean, you better go put the steer in the trailer if you want him to be out of his range, you know.
Yeah.
Tyler Trine, I mean, speaks for himself. They've slipped off a little bit, but you know what they're capable of. Then there's Luke, and then there's Nelson and Brenton and Snow and Coy Roller. Holy cow.
I think a lot of those guys have the tour finale made too. So a lot of this is going to come down to who's got Pialat made. You know, it's a long way to be over now too. And even though it's only the last part, but I'm telling you, when you put Pialat in there, Pendleton, I heard, is $10,000 average, $7,000 day monies. You've got Mandan that has $45,000 added. I think a 12 money $9,000 rodeo, and then the Governor's Cup.
Yeah,
and then the guys that don't, man, they are hitting every rodeo that last week, and so it's trains, planes, and automobiles.
Yeah, it's just it's a shakeup. I mean, I think the PRCA has accomplished what they wanted to do by having this, you know, this overtime period or whatever. This whoever does it this last couple of weeks right here is going to make it's riveting. I mean, it's got everybody looking at the standings.
Yeah, this is when I start. This is like watching the end of the game.
Yeah,
you know, fourth quarters here.
I mean,
who's going to make the playoffs?
I feel for those guys, but
man, you think like like some of those guys going into like Jake Smith and Dougie, you know, that steer got in the wall and got out of Doug's loop right at the end to win that. And they're right there on the bubble.
Yeah.
You know, the sleep, you know, who can bounce back the fastest and get back on that roll. But yeah, a lot of these guys, and I tell you what, even, you know, you look at Andrew Ward at 8th at 120 and 15th is 101 and 16th 100. You know, with all those rodeos left, the guy's just not feeling just real comfortable at 120.
There's going to be guys that are going to win 20 or 30,000 from here on out to the end of the year. I mean, they're going to make those big jumps, and there's going to be more than one team that does that because of all of it that's available out there.
Stepping up and some big hits.
I mean, I don't know. I look at that deal. I mean, Colton Schmidt, I'm glad he's having a good year like that. I mean, he's really. It looks like he's got a super horse underneath him right now.
Yeah.
And the minors, you know,
how about that? You talk about horses.
Yeah.
You know,
he just said to heck with it. I'm getting on old Bob till he croaks.
Bob again.
Yeah. And boy, he's a difference maker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Levi Lord at the top, you know, just quietly at the top and on the heel side. Thorpe and Jade. There's such a similarity between those two with just Iceman and Kobe Payne's having a good year. He's going to be in and Lane Mitchell got a good chance to make his first one.
Yeah, I'm really kind of pulling for Wyatt Cox.
I know, El Coxie. What about that shot he pulled off at Bremerton the other day?
Golly, he is healing now.
I mean, one-handed catch in the back of the end zone about 5 feet high with both feet out of bounds and somehow gets him in. It was amazing.
That was unbelievable.
And he doesn't have Piala, so he's got to do it the hard way. He's going to have to do it the hard way, and he's a 14.
I mean, how well is he sleeping at night?
Dunning too. That boy's another up and comer.
Yeah,
the Graham boys I'm pulling for, and the fact too is I've been watching them be close.
Yeah, they've been close
the last couple of years, and I love seeing Canada come with some wins. You know, because of how hard it is to be successful as a team roper coming from up there. I love seeing that. So
you know, but you think you know, Brenton and Caden, as good as they rope, you think, and as good as they were doing earlier in the year and everything. And Caden, it surprises me to see Caden at 16th because it just looks like, golly, I mean, could they not give you a few more spots than 15? You know, I mean, it's like,
I know it.
Come on, I mean,
I know it.
You know, Sid Spore, golly, he's got a shot.
Sid Rock has been healing this year. I've been proud of him. He's talked about a guy that's put in some work for a long time. Love to see him be able to grind at the end too.
There. Yeah, it would mean so much to a guy like him.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, this is when it starts getting hard. You know, you feel for the guys out here because you know the miles are hard, the miles are long, the sleep is not very much, and you know, this is when you start seeing the guys that can give that extra 40%.
Yeah. The end is right around the corner. Stay hooked, guys.
Well, Jeffrey, I appreciate you coming in, man. I know you're busy with all that's going on. I always love it when you're coming into Stephenville.
Yeah,
enjoy it.
I like it. I like coming down here. We spend quite a bit of time down here these days, but always look forward to getting back to the ranch.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you coming on, man. I've been a good friend for a long time, and I appreciate all the support you've had. And man, it's always good seeing you.
Anytime. I enjoyed it. Thanks.
Bye.